against increase in fuel hike and electricity tariff increase today, who were arrested and detained at the Lagos State Police Command and later released, is Comrade Taiwo Azan, also known as Soweto. He's here with me live on the show tonight to give us updates on how it all went. He's going to narrate to us the experience and the outcome of the protest itself. Comrade Taiwo Azan Soweto, you're welcome. How are you, sir?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very fine. Thank you.
Very great. I saw videos of the protest and how some of the protesters were treated. Can you quickly narrate to us some of the things we didn't get to see while you were there, even though we were getting some short clips from there? Was what went down? How were you eventually released?
Okay. Well, let me start from the beginning. The protest was called by the Socialist Party of Nigeria uh, with the support of some other political parties like the National Conscience Party and, of course, civil society organizations. With a view to protest the refusal of INEC to respect the Court of Appeal judgment, which nullified the registration of the SPN and 72 other political parties. At the same time, the purpose of the protest was also to begin to sensitize and mobilize Nigerians against the fuel price hike and the increase in the electricity tariff. The protest was supposed to kick off from the Yaba bus stop, just at the base of the Taiso Tulare statue. But as early as 6:30 a.m. this morning, the police had invaded that place and cordoned off the entire area, which was why we had to relocate to the frontage of the Nigerian Labour Congress at 18 Olajuwon, with a view to ensure that the protest was not disrupted, by the police. So as at 9:30 a.m., we had gathered at NLC office, and as the protest kicked off, in an orderly manner, and very peaceful, the police got wind of it, and then, of course, there was a stampede by them to try and cut us off. They eventually went to the end of Ujuelegba, that under bridge, in order to prevent us from getting to the highway. And as soon as we met them at that spot, we arranged a delegation of party leaders, composed of the National Secretary, Comrade Chinedu Bosa, the NEC member representing Lagos, Comrade Dagatola, as well as the legal advisor of the party, Barrister Yoademi Lui, to discuss with the police in order to make the police know our right under the Constitution, and of course to also see whether we could see reason with any proposals the police may have as to how the protest should go, in an orderly manner. But it became very clear that despite these peaceful virtues by us, the police had a very clear order to disperse us. Because even while if you saw the video very well, you will see the party leaders, three of them chosen by the movement to discuss with them. You see them approaching the police saying, "Hello, sir, can we discuss?" And the police completely ignoring them and yelling, "Arrest them! Arrest all of them!" And it was at that point that we knew clearly that they had clear orders to arrest us. And then, of course, the arrest started, with no other person than the national secretary, being the first person to be arrested. Was dragged to the van, and of course, other party members, one after the other, they started arresting everyone. But at a point, I mean, they felt they also didn't know what to do anymore after they arrested a couple of people, and then we told them that there was no reason to continue to harass us. If what they needed was for us to show up at the police station, we could do that without necessarily being, harassed or molested. So I think they saw that as as something that can
Unexpected.
de-escalate
Mm.
a tense situation. So they said we should come over to the Area C police station. Uh, uh, we said yes, there's no problem. If it's the Area C, we're ready to go. And then they said we have to enter the van, all of us. And we said, one, the van cannot contain us. Since especially given COVID-19 regulations, you will be violating the COVID-19 regulations when you try and put tens of people, in two vans, conveying them to a police station that would rather walk alongside with them to the police station. And that was where you would see in the video us chanting, "We will walk, we will walk," and all of that. But it became clear that they also did not want us to walk. And what was clear was that what they wanted was us to be off the street entirely, because already, even right from the starting point of the protest, the anger of Nigerians, this the support of members of the public for the protest, and their readiness to join us was very clear. In fact, if we actually heard the Nigerian police today, if we had tried to resist arrest at that Ojuelegba, there's a possibility that scuffle would have ensued, which would not just involve us, it would have involved other Nigerians, other working poor people, looking at what was happening and getting infuriated, by the temerity the police had, to try and disrupt what was clearly an orderly procession, trying to raise demands about what affect the generality of the populace. And that explains why the police also did not want us to walk, because it could have been a walk that they would not be able to control. It would have meant the crowd growing larger and larger up to the police station. And what further demonstrates this is the fact that out of the 14 of us, the 18 of us arrested alongside with the journalists, there are two men who we did not even know, who are not members of the SPN, who were arrested because not only did they collect SPN leaflets, they also took it upon themselves to collect a bunch of the leaflets and circulate it to their fellow passerby. So they clearly, saw reason to be part of the protest. In fact, when the police eventually forced us into the van and we were being taken away, passerby, mobbed the police van in order to receive the leaflet that we were holding, so that we would not have to take that away to the police station, because they wanted to see what we had on the leaflet. And you had people chanting solidarity and support, raising up their fist. And after we were released, party members who survived that ordeal told us of how several minutes, about 40 minutes after we had been taken away from the vicinity of Ojuelegba, how that entire bridge was tensed, with a crowd gathering to agitate, to talk about how the limited democratic right that Nigerians have enjoyed since 1999 appear to have been completely wiped off by the current Buhari regime. So this was a movement that was very small, but it corresponded with the deep-seated anger of the mass majority of the people, and it points into the direction of the fact that in this country, something much more bigger than we have seen before. But unfortunately, Labour leadership appears not to be ready to give a full leadership to that. As to how we were released, actually, we were not released. We were taken from Area C. We were not even taken to the Area C police station. But the Area C DPO just transferred us directly to the police command. And when we got there, we spent 3 hours with the police not knowing what to do about us. Then at some point, the new police PPRO, SP Muyiwa, decided to parade us, and this is very important since I'm speaking with objective media. One of your journalists was also arrested. The police had arranged some journalists, with cameras to come and conduct, a conference, a press conference, where the police expected to parade us as hoodlums, and it was the journalists of Premium Times and others that were arrested with us who first raised the alarm that how could their colleagues accept this kind of job from the police to parade fellow journalists who had been arrested with protesters, and that it shows how much these people do not have any dignity, in accepting that kind of assignment. And of course, we had to join those journalists, to condemn the entire, attempt, to parade us. So the journalists had to back off, and of course, the PPRA himself had to back off from that effort. But it does show, how possibly from this movement, journalists who have a pro-people orientation needs to see how to take up some of these people. I'm sure that some of the journalists who are arrested with us will be able to identify these journalists. They need to be cautioned because, like I told them during the protest, even under the military regime, we had heroic attempt by many journalists to defend, the right of free speech and the right for the media, to function. So how much more under civil rule, that journalists would then accept that kind of offer from the police command, to record their fellow journalists, whose rights are being clearly, violated, by a roguish police force. I think this is something that needs to be addressed going forward. We need dignity with the media profession, especially as the Buhari regime continues to BS its fan and continues to repress. So from the police command, we were driven to the task force at Oshodi. It became clear apparently that the police command would not take our case because I think they felt that it was a case that was going to really expose them. What would they charge us with? And of course there was a lot of backlash that was already coming, calls to the commissioner of police, text messages to the PPRO. We must give accolades to many of our comrades and organizations and lawyers who launched the immediate public campaign, on social media, calling on people to send text messages to the phone numbers of the police command. We must also give accolades to the Committee for the Workers International, CWI, which also launched an international campaign so that the messages that they were getting was not just from Nigerians, but also from comrades internationally. I think there was a way, alongside with the fact that social media for almost the entire day appears to be focused on that single incident. I think there was a way it made the police command to panic, and they felt that the best thing to do was to move us over to the task force, which obviously has a history, of carrying out all kinds of dirty job, on behalf of the state. We were able to, because of the protest that we started at the police command over the attempt to parade us. The police had to review the attempt to convey us in a dirty-looking Black Maria to the task force. They had to then decide to parade us in 2 vans, which were looking quite manageable, to the task force. Then at the task force, we spent maybe another 2 hours again, with the officials going back and forth, not knowing also what to do. Apparently, what they were confused about. Was which charges really would look credible enough to hold us with. Should they charge us under the COVID-19 regulations, violations of COVID-19 regulations, or something else? Eventually, I think they settled for conduct likely to cause a breach of public peace. So we were asked to write a statement, after which we were then arraigned for about 5 minutes. Really, the whole proceeding didn't last more than a few minutes. With the registrar reading out the charges, and also Fami, the father, were not guilty of those charges. And then, in a dramatic manner, the prosecutor stood up to appeal that the the charges should be withdrawn. The state was ready to withdraw the charges. And of course, our lawyers didn't object to that. That was how the case was struck out. And they were asked to go under caution. So that's why I said we were not actually released. We were arraigned, then discharged, and acquitted. What all of this mean really is that the state really didn't have any case. They just wanted to
As
intimidate
usual,
us.
they have
That's all.
never had.
Yes, but
In
then
cases
they
like this,
also
they have never
appear
had.
to have, yeah, yes, they at the same time they also appear to have been seriously taken aback, by the courage, that we had. Because right from the journey from Ojuelegba to the police command, we chanted solidarity songs all through. Then at the police command, we did a short rally before we're then taking over to task force, and all the way to the task force, we also chanted solidarity songs. So our spirits were very high, and they must have seen that whatever they did with us was not likely going to really make us be discouraged. And I will use the opportunity to urge every young person and working people who are afraid, that if they protest or if they fight for their right, that something bad will happen to them. Because see, from these examples, that we have no choice. We must fight for our right, and that really, that's the only choice that we have. Otherwise, the ruling elite, capitalist ruling elite, are ready to actually push us into the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm also happy that on the very day that we were arrested, that we went through this ordeal, the mobilization meeting of the Joint Action Front was able to hold, where another action has been declared for next week, Wednesday. And I must assure you that we will be there, to equally put ourselves forward to begin to lead a movement that can begin to transform this country. But we must also call on the leadership of the labor movement that the only reason why protests can be easily repressed is because the power of the working class has not been unleashed, and it is the labor leadership that is holding that back. We need at least a 48-hour general strike and nationwide mass protest. I think if this happens, the police and security agencies will know where the power lies.
Thank you so much for that summary, comrade. So that simply means that they summarily arranged the protesters before a mobile court, and they got before their own court and still backtracked that they were not even willing
Yes,
to prosecute at all after all. So,
yes,
in a nutshell, would you simply say that they they simply just didn't want you to protest? It is not as if they had anything against anybody. They just were afraid of protests. Is that the meaning?
yes. That's the meaning. The state is really in panic. It feels that given the anger in the country today because of the failure of the Buhari regime, that a conflagration. So even if just one person is protesting, the police will likely arrest that person because they know that every 100 or 200 people sees that person protesting, in their mind support that effort. It's a different thing if you are just a lone protester and every other person does not care about what you are doing. So they know that they are isolated. They know that the Buhari regime has lost its social base, and anything can actually ignite it. So they are so panicking, and that's why they are doing what they are doing. But what they do also know is that all of this repression also emboldens. It also strengthens people. I feel very strengthened today, and I see many of the protesters, people who protested together, especially those who were at their first protest in their entire life today, feeling emboldened, feeling strengthened by that experience. And I'm sure that there's nothing they can do. The movement will come together, and it will come out. There will be an unleashing of the power of the working class very soon. and the regime could be swept away. That's just how very deep the anger is.
Comrade, uh, sometimes when you take estimation of when you look at the countenance of police officers who are assigned to come and confront protesters, you see that some of them will just feel like you see from their countenance that they agree with what you're doing because they know that their own the future of their own children are also being affected by what you are talking about in your protest or in the placards or the statements written in the placard. But looking at the quality of the mind of policemen who approached you today to arrest the protesters, what is your estimation of them? Do they look like they understand what this protest is about after all, or were they just hell-bent? Would you say they were fit psychologically? Because I saw some of the videos. I saw one police officer who does not even understand what it means to be a journalist assaulting a journalist. I saw another one who just came to without even reading what's on the banner, pushing down the banner, and they were all trying to round the protesters up. What is your estimation of the quality of mind of the police officers assigned to come and arrest protesters today?
Well, I mean, what I saw really, because when at the point when they arrested us, you know, after a period of confrontation and agitation, I mean, we had the feeling that these were, just dogs or the system unleashed on us. But then afterwards, especially when we got to the police command and the tension had come down and we could relate with them and talk and all of that, then you began to see that, beneath the uniform, these are frustrated Nigerians who are just visiting their anger on their fellow men, just like a bus conductor or a bus driver will visit his anger on someone else. I mean, because according to one of the police officers who led me to ease myself while at the police command, he said that they had been out since yesterday night, apparently as part of their preparation for today. So they were just in the house since yesterday night, so they didn't have enough sleep. So as far as they were concerned, it's like we and their superiors are the ones depriving them of relaxation. So the idea is to just end whatever we are doing and take us to their Oga so that they
Go
can be
and
free
submit
to go
you
and
back
live
to their
their life.
boss so that they can go
So
and rest.
exactly. So there's also that, so that it's just a mixture of many things. But this does not remove the fact that the police and other security forces are clearly instrument of a class oppression, regardless of the quality of mind of the elements who are there. You could have those who are professional, you could have those who are godly, you could have those who have empathy. But when the chip is down, they've all got to do their job. I mean, for instance, and I'll give an example. Muyiwa, who is the new police PPRO in Lagos State, is actually someone who, while he was a student in UI, was a student activist. That it was only later that he then told his men that Dagatola used to be his political father.
Mentor.
Well, that was after I lambasted him that, given his antecedent, you would expect that he would not be the one to parade us like hoodlums. So even his men were taken aback that those they arrested are not even ruffians. But it does show you that regardless of what their background is, regardless of the fact that many of the police, many of them, especially the rank and file, are from working class background. So far that they serve in that agency, in that institution, they become a tool of class oppression. But our own role really is to try and break their ranks. And that's why as socialists we demand that the rank and file of the police force requires a union in order to be able to even fight for better welfare conditions. And that possibly could also give individual police the opportunity of disobeying, unlawful orders But if they know that there's a union that can stand for them, maybe it should be an unlawful order, perhaps that could also have an impact in the conduct of the police. But again, I must stress, police, the SSS, the army, remains an instrument of class oppression. And this brings to mind an incident which shows that our arrest today was not accidental, that the state had actually been monitoring us. The meeting of the Socialist Party of Nigeria Lagos State chapter, where the decision to have today's protest was taken, held about 2 to 3 weeks ago. And there was at that meeting, I remember that when the roll call of participants was taken, a lady stood up and identified herself as an officer of the Department of State Security, the DSS. And we had to ask her that, why is she here if she's from the DSS? And she said, well, she just felt that she needed to be there. And we said that, well, she's a Nigerian, she has the right to be anywhere, but that this meeting is only for members and aspiring members. If she's not a member and she's not willing to join our party, she would have to take her leave, something which she did. But what this shows is that, the state have been carrying out espionage, of all revolutionary forces. They possibly have inserted themselves, into WhatsApp groups of many organizations and revolutionary groups, trying to get information as to what we are doing, carrying out espionage, spying on organizations, individuals, and co. So, and that explains really how the Buhari regime has ramped up, the repressive ability of the state and has turned it to, a pastime whereby just any expression of dissent, because an opportunity for the state to unleash all of its superior firepower. But again, I must say that this will not last. It's only because our protest is in trickles. That's why they are able to overwhelm us. By the time the power of the working class is unleashed, this instrument of class oppression, the police and the army, they will not be able to function. I can assure you of that.
Well, from what you just said, rounding off that particular sentence, I'm just going to ask this last question as a follow-up. While that protest was ongoing, many Nigerians who would have been part of that protest were watching Big Brother Niger, a show that has been tagged all sort of names. Similarly, while that was going on, some were discussing sports games online, some were doing betting and all sorts. While that was also ongoing, that protest, some were still contributing money for one of the evictees or evicted housemates of the BB Niger lockdown, inmates locked in the house. Um, how convinced are you that Nigerians are truly ready to be in this struggle with you?
Well, uh, the reality is that anybody has a right to indulge in any distraction. But so far, you are not a member of the privileged class and you are a struggling Nigerian. There's no way you can totally cut yourself off from the material existence of poverty, of destitution, of lack of access to regular power supply, of inability to afford basic amenities because of the rising cost of living. And if that is the case, it means that regardless of how much distraction you engage in, that reality will still come knocking on your door. So for me, really, it's not a question of whether they will join us. It's a question of how soon, because they have no choice really at the end of it, and ultimately, because we are crying now that things are so hard at a period when the full ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic economically has not even yet unfolded fully. A recession is still coming, which will mean that all of what we are talking about in terms of rising cost of living, devaluation of naira, rising the increase in electricity and fuel price tariff will be like a child's play. terms of the catastrophe that is coming economically. And what that means is that those who could afford to ignore those social realities today will no more be able to do so. So we should not bother ourselves. Those of us who have already reached that conclusion because of our own material existence and condition should begin to do something and organize ourselves. As time goes on, and very soon, those who are not yet convinced now will get convinced and they will join us. I can assure you of that. So we should not be distracted, we should not be discouraged. Where we are today was not where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when there was some element of illusion in so-called change agenda of the Buhari regime. There are more people against the Buhari regime today than there were about 5 years ago. So it is very clear that the consciousness is shifting. There's a process of radicalization taking place across different layers of the population. The youth appears to be the most radicalized now, but that only looks like that only because the leadership of labor movement continues to hold down the workers. If the workers are released out on the general strike today, then we are going to see that actually the industrial working class organizing trade unions are actually the most radical and the most convinced of the need to fight this regime. And that is why the focus of members of the SPN and the Democratic Socialist movement right now is how to break the hold of the bureaucracy of the labor leadership over the movement, how to rouse the workers in their individual unions to begin to take on their leadership, to ask their leadership to fight, and if they cannot fight, to be ready to remove them and replace them. If we don't do this, then we will continue to protest in an isolated manner, and the protest will not be able to come together in a force that is strong enough to actually lead to a serious and revolutionary change in society.
Comrade, I'm so sorry. I know I said last question, but I just want to give a follow up to the going by what you just said. You mentioned two things that are very critical. One is that there are layers of reactions among the populace, and second is that there are sprinkles or pockets of protests or actions that are not yet aggregated or converged into one that would have been a massive action. Uh, it then takes me to the question of how different people are reacting differently. Some are not joining this because they are still waiting for another action under another organized body. For instance, some are even talking about secession, that they don't even want to see this Nigeria again. For instance, while the protest was ongoing this morning, some believe that the police even treating people like that is even uncalled for, that it could only happen in a place worse than a zoo. And as a result, they don't even want this country anymore because the country is already won out and they want to exit. While some people or scholars have identified that these are reactions because governance is not working in the country, I'd like to know what you make of it. Do you think the country truly has expired and it just needs to just fizzle out and let everybody just work their own thing according to their region, forming new nations? Or do you think bringing all these agitations together into one form will make a country better altogether again?
Yes, I have absolute faith in the power of the working class of Nigeria, to unite around a national program to rid this country of the locusts, capitalist locusts, who have, you know, who have, who have been, who have turned this country to a wasteland over the past couple of, over the past several decades. Uh, Obviously, there are sentiments that perhaps if we go as if that perhaps there could be some solution. But what we socialists have always asked is that upon what will be the program upon which that separation will take place? Because Nigeria is not workable, not because Nigerians cannot live together, but because you have a socioeconomic situation that creates not just mass poverty in the midst of plenty, but it also stimulates friction among the different constituent parts of the country. So if it is this same kind of a socioeconomic system that you are going to base the new separate entity upon, then nothing would have been resolved from the point of view of the average people, whether of Biafra or of Udua Republic or of Ariwa Republic. So that for us, question of how to resolve the issues is first and foremost a question of what is a political program to develop the country. And we think we have the hope that if the working class of this country can put forward a program that can ensure that the commonwealth of this country is utilized to create the basis of existence for everyone, free education, healthcare, just for all, a functioning economy that is democratically owned and nationalized, with a better life for everybody, not just for a few. We think that if that can be done, then very many people who are agitating for separation today may not see any reason to separate anymore. Because it will be like, what exactly do you need separation for? When already the better life you aspire for is already here. Because really, when you look at the history of modern society, you are going to realize that the largeness of nations is actually an advantage, both in terms of economic intercourse and all of that. So that the idea of a small separate state really, is not something that they can take society forward. But that does not mean that where there are legitimate reasons and agitations for separation, that this cannot be supported. We socially stand for the right to self-determination, but we demand that such self-determination can only be fruitful to the working class and the poor people when it is based on a socioeconomic system that ensures that the commonwealth of that entity, really is utilized judiciously to take care of the interest of all. So it's neither here nor there, but we think that starting point for creating a solution to the problems of this country for the working masses from different regions of the country to come together in a united mass movement to begin to fight. Because when you look at it, really, the ruling elite, regardless of where they come from, they are very united. The Buhari regime, despite how much it disparages the 16 years of PDP rule, has managed to continue all of the fundamental economic policies of the PDP. In fact, they have managed to conclude some of the policies that the PDP started that they could not complete. One of which is the deregulation of the oil sector, which the Buhari regime has managed to accomplish today. That was a policy that started right from the period of Obasanjo, Jonathan. They could not conclude it because of the power of the working class resistance. The Buhari regime has managed to conclude it today, and that's what we see now. So when you look at that unity that exists among the ruling elites, it shows that there's more reason why we, the common people and the working class, need to also find a way to unite ourselves in order to be able to overpower them.
Thank you very much. It's been a very, very insightful time with you, Comrade Soweto. We will continue this conversation certainly, but we need people to digest what we have already unbundled in this evening broadcast. Thank you so much, and I want to say may the forces continue to be with you, and then may you see the Nigeria that you work, you dream and work for, especially since antecedent till now. Thank you so much, and that is it with Comrade Soweto. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'm going to see you again tomorrow, and then before then, I leave you with some of the clips from the protests earlier today. Bye for now.
That's Buhari and IGP. The president of this country was arrested in a protest. And to that effect, that judgment said police order cannot be obtained for any rally. Pressmen from Sahara reporters were arrested, were molested by officers of the Nigerian police. On Galaxy TV television station, today is a graveyard of press freedom in our country. So if we are saying we want to go have the legal advisor of the party we have a favorable court of appeal judgment, we have a rally to INEC, we cannot go and enforce section 40 of the constitution. I don't understand what is happening here.
We demand for police union.
Very well.
We demand for police union.
This is not
Nigerian people. As soon as Nigerian people. Well, the police people are agreed to the problem. And they start police union. When we were arrested, we did not resist coming. Very well. It's because we are not criminals. We are ready to defend our right to protest to any length. That will enjoin us after the leaders are giving short speeches. That will fall into their black or green area and go to their court of justice. But let me tell you, the day is coming when at the barricade we shall do justice for your system and for all of you servants of that system. And that judgment day will come. That's all I say.
I want to put it on record, on your camera. If this is the way we want to run this country is going down bad. The commissioner of police should know that he's going to be held accountable for this. And now he should be aware of the case of KMPC and IGP. If this is the way we want to run this country, then something really bad is really going on. If we are marching to demand